Ant, welcome back to Proto Podcast. How are you feeling?
Feel great. Thank you.
Do you actually feel great?
Mentally I feel great. Physically I don't feel so great, but I'm all right.
Well, we're going to get into that. This is going to be a podcast episode that's broken into 4 interviews.
Okay.
Interview 1 is tonight. We are 2 days before the Dubai Fitness Championships. It's now Wednesday. You kick off on Friday. Interview 2 is going to be after day 1. And then we're going to do one after day 2. And we're doing one after day 3 at the end of the competition. The whole idea of this podcast is to dig into the mindset of an athlete. You're about to take part in one of the biggest CrossFit competitions there is in the year. There are many, many big names, including yourself, who are competing. And I want to ask you to kick things off. How are you feeling right now? What are some of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are running through your mind right now?
Yeah, I think coming off the back of a CrossFit Games appearance this year has helped my mental state and where I'm at as a competitor. But I think when you go to any big event like this, I think I quite often deal with a bit of anxiety, a bit of imposter syndrome every now and then, and it takes me a while to kind of like warm into the event. And I think after I do the athlete briefing tomorrow, I'll start to feel a little bit better. They're all kind of like nerves, I guess. But I think I've always had that, even when I am back in my rugby days, when I used to go to an event, even when I used to play for the club or country, I would still get that same sort of feeling. And I think it's a necessary part of competing. It keeps you on your toes. It keeps you pushing forward, and that's what keeps you striving for better each time.
And can I just interrupt you and ask, what is that feeling?
It's a feeling of like not belonging. It's a feeling of maybe not earning a spot, or feeling maybe not being good enough compared to the peers or your competitors around you. And it can definitely be quite a crippling feeling sometimes. It can make you feel like out of place, very socially awkward, not wanting to talk to people, keeping to yourself. But sometimes it can also, if you learn about it and you understand it a bit more, then it just can be another part of competing, which is, I know it sounds strange to say, but it's something, it's like, I just feel like it's a part of the process, and I enjoy going through that and then hoping that it goes away as I go through the week or the weekend.
Can I ask, the feeling of like not belonging?
Yeah.
Is that a feeling of not belonging in the eyes of the people watching, or is that a feeling of not belonging in terms of, do you feel like, is it that you're not as good as they are and you don't deserve to be here?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I think in any sport, you are judged by yourself, you are judged by a leaderboard, and you are judged by spectators as well. So I think it's a bit of both for sure. I think the self part comes from just self-doubt. You only know of your competitors and what you see on social media, so you have no idea really, and that's just like a bit of an insecurity that comes through. And you can tell yourself that you're the best and you've trained hard, and you've put in all the work that you can, but at the end of the day, some people actually just might be better than you, and that's okay.
And can I ask, is the insecurity feeling, is that an insecurity of feeling like these guys are so much better than you and therefore you're going to lose, or they're going to beat you? Is that a feeling that crosses your mind?
No, not so much like that, because I think I understand that that's just a part of sport. Like, you win and you lose in a sport, and you don't always have to come in the top, X percentile of whatever you're doing. Yeah, I think it's more so the fact that, I haven't done anything since the CrossFit Games. That's, I guess, of like noteworthy or anything like that. So, and a lot of these other guys have done things like the Rogue Invitational, or have, they just get more of a spotlight on them. So that's kind of in the back of my head as well. And I just feel like sometimes maybe I'm a bit older, maybe, yeah, I guess like the performance side of things will definitely come into it. But that's not a fear that I have, that I'm going to get beaten, because I know I'll get beaten in some workouts, and I know I'll also beat them in some workouts, whoever that is. But yeah, I think it's just, I feel like it's a part of the whole package of being a performer and being a professional in any sport.
Okay, so we're staying in the athlete hotel right now.
Yeah.
So basically all the athletes have been basically recommended to stay here. So in the lobby, there is all the guys you're going to be competing against. For most like CrossFit fans, they would probably be in awe of just how many of their heroes are in, that's the same room, eating breakfast, eating dinner together. And as the days have gone on and more athletes have been appearing at the hotel, how does that make you feel? Does that make you feel more nervous? Or does it actually ease and calm your nerves?
Yeah, I think we spoke about this at breakfast yesterday. Yeah, I actually feel like it almost calms me a bit more. I feel as if I feel more welcomed almost, because I definitely feel a bit more confident in myself. So these like anxieties that I'm talking about have definitely been maybe worse in the past, and I've not dealt with them so well. But now it's, like normally if I saw, John sitting across the room and John was the number one, and everyone was saying this guy's going to win it and he's been dominating everyone all year, I normally would just be like, okay, I won't say anything. I'll just sit there and eat my breakfast and not do anything. But now I feel a bit more confident to go up, say hi, and then that person actually recognizes me, and just that recognition of like, hey, how are you? And, good to see you, whatever it might be, versus like having to constantly introduce myself, which I guess would have been the previous 5, 6, 7 years. Now I don't go through that anymore. So I feel like that makes me feel more welcome and part of, I guess, like the circle.
So it's almost like,
Makes me feel like a bit more.
it's like what you've earned and what you've achieved has like given you confidence, and has helped ease a lot of the anxieties you have around like these big occasions, knowing that you've been here before, people know you, and people do, pretty much every single athlete we've met has come up to you, or you've gone up to them, and you know each other's names, and there's a handshake. So I certainly know, from your very first CrossFit Games to now, there is definitely this like understanding that you are someone who is, in the same caliber of athlete as all these other guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that just that's sometimes you lose your perspective of where you are, and that's very easy to do, especially when you're somewhere like we're based in Hong Kong, where it's very hard to get to a competition. You're having to fly a minimum of 8 hours to get to a half decent or high level competition. So yeah, I think it's sometimes you can lose perspective, or you just get so zoomed in at that one moment in time, versus
if you were training with that kind of athlete all the time, you'd be reminded of it more.
that as well, but also like competing on a regular basis and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think as the athletes have rolled in, it's made me feel a bit more at ease, a bit more comfortable.
Do you ever get thoughts around like a fear of like failing, or like a fear of not being able to do well in a workout, or a fear of you forgetting how to do a certain movement, or a fear of you not being good enough, strong enough, fit enough? Do those thoughts creep into your head in the kind of last couple of days leading into a competition like this?
Yeah, they do quite a lot. I think at the CrossFit Games, for example, in this year, 2023, that was probably a very good example of it. I got a very last minute invite, and all I wanted to do was literally every movement under the sun, just to make sure that I've done it before. Where, in actual fact, I've done thousands and thousands of those reps, and my body's not going to forget how to do them. But definitely there's some anxiety there. Rolling into this DFC, I'm definitely not at like my physical best, but I've also not peaked for this competition, so I can't expect to be at my physical best. And I know it's like let's call it an off-season comp, so it's still pre-season essentially, and it's just like a good litmus test for me, and I just remind myself of that as well. It doesn't mean it's an excuse to perform poorly and not to give my full effort, because that's not what's going to happen. But it's also, that's just, I got to remind myself of that as well. That this isn't the CrossFit Games as if I qualified and had 5 months of prep.
So,
But
so a lot of athletes, I mean, at the highest level, and I know this because I've heard them on podcasts, I've spoken to myself, but also just like at any level of CrossFit or fitness. So there's a lot of people who feel that, well, if I'm not at my fittest, then I shouldn't compete. Or, I'm not going to compete until I feel like I'm at X level.
yeah.
Whereas you're saying that that you're not at your fittest, this is not necessarily something you're going to win. That, this is your off season, therefore you've got expectations around that.
Yeah.
Have you always thought that way, or is that something that has matured or come along as you've done this more?
I think these competitions are few and far between, and they're like an amazing opportunity
For what?
for myself as an athlete to gain experience, to gain exposure, for the brands that I represent as well, whether it's my sponsors, whether it's a company who I represent in our business. I think it's a huge opportunity there as well. And I think it's just like it's almost like a once in a lifetime experience. I'll be lucky enough that this is my third Dubai Fitness Championships, and a lot of people who are in the elite circle in CrossFit will never ever experience a DFC in their lives. So yeah, I think I also I guess it comes from what I said before, that being a sportsman, I understand that you cannot be at your physical best for every single competition. I learned that when we played rugby. We used to do back-to-back tournaments, weekend after weekend, and you're flying multiple hours across different time zones, and you're having to try to recover. And you just know, like, when you've done this for so many years, like the days in and out of a gym, let alone competitions, like they're so hit and miss sometimes, and that's okay. You're not gonna always be number one. You're not gonna be at your peak physical best condition all the time, and that's okay. But I think you can control that as much as you can by doing the 1%ers, the recovery stuff, your nutrition, your lifestyle management. But yeah, just understanding that there are so many highs and lows of competing in any sport is key to, I guess, being okay with everything mentally and psychologically. Because if you're not and you beat yourself up every time, then it's going to be a very short-lived career, and you'll probably be not taking many opportunities when they roll your way.
So I want to ask, like, these crippling thoughts that come into your mind, which you say you still deal with.
Yeah.
Right, fear of failure, not fitting in. These thoughts that are coming into your mind, as you approach a competition, how do you actually deal with it? What do you do? What are the things that you tell yourself? What are you processing in your mind to deal with those thoughts, silence those thoughts? Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, I think the number one thing over the last few years, as I was saying, is actually just mixing with the other athletes. And I think I'm a social creature. I don't know if I'm extroverted, but I definitely like to talk to people, and it makes me feel a bit more comfortable if I can have a conversation with people. Predominantly the athletes I'm going to be competing with. You do definitely sometimes get lost in thinking that you are just direct competitors all the time, which you absolutely are. But there's some good people here as well, and like people who are actually my friends, and it's nice to connect with them. It makes me feel at ease, for sure. That's one thing, and that also makes me feel, also in like the warm-up areas and off the competition floor, when obviously when you actually are talking to them, like, people are also the same as you. Like, they want to have a good time as well, and they want to create bonds and friendships, and that definitely eases my mind.
So just on that then, you're saying when you have these thoughts, you recognize that those thoughts are there, and actually by just kind of like throwing yourself into the mix and just like speaking to people and just doing the thing you love doing, which is interacting with people, that tends to kind of like push those thoughts and feelings aside.
It definitely helps it. Yeah, it doesn't make me feel like I can suddenly do 50 unbroken muscle ups or like a 200 kg clean and jerk, but it definitely eases my mind. I think another thing that I tell myself a lot is, I've done this for a long time now. I've got a lot of experience in the bank. I've got plenty of repetitions under my belt when I'm actually talking about the movements themselves. And again, like, if I do quickly zoom out of wherever I am at that time, whether it's the games, whether it's DFC, whether it's going to a semi-final in career, I've been here and I've been successful with it. So
You've experienced all these things before.
yeah,
and you just get on with it. You've actually been successful almost every single time.
Yeah, so
That kind of calms your nerves knowing
yeah,
that
and
I'll be all
it's
right.
like it's proof that I'm good enough, that I've done it before, that I have the ability to do it. I also understand that this sport is random, and sometimes, you know, the ball doesn't roll my way, and the workouts are just maybe not going to be the best for me, and there's going to be other guys who are going to crush those workouts, and so be it. You know, I can always control what I can control, which is, you know, my strategy that I create, my attitude that I give towards it, and then everything that I do off the competition floor afterwards. Like, those are the three things that I can control within a competition, which will make me feel better and will help me deal with any of the other stuff, because the other stuff really is kind of out of my control. You know, I don't control who's coming to the event. I don't control who's creating the workouts. I don't control the time of day we're starting, how hot it is during the day. Whatever I have to deal with, generally speaking, 100% of the athletes also have to deal with. So, you know, I'm sure I'm not the only one who is going through these things that I'm talking about now. I'm sure there'll be different levels of it, but yeah, I can also recognize and understand that everyone has some sort of anxiety to some level.
Yeah. Last question for the night. How will you define success this weekend?
I think success will be defined much like I have done in probably my last 5 years competing, which is actually what I just said there, which is being proud of the effort that I put in. And I think, you know, giving my full effort will leave me proud. And I think if I give my full effort and make myself proud, then the outcome that I deserve will be there at the end of the weekend.
Love it. All right, we'll check in after day one.
Thank you.
And day one done. I'd like to know, what are some of the thoughts running through your head right now?
First thought was why you thought it was so strange that I wore ankle socks.
Yeah, it was weird.
Why?
Well, so context here. Ant was wearing, so there's a difference between ankle socks and there's a difference between no-show ankle socks.
These.
Yeah. And I can't believe you competed in those.
Why?
Just, I don't know. I mean, I think they're just at the best time just walking, I feel like they're not great. And actually running through an obstacle course, I don't know. Do you always do that?
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, cool.
That's why you got rubber on the back of it and it stays on your foot.
Okay, cool. So that's one thought
Yeah.
going through your head.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think the two events in day one, first one being an obstacle course, second one being a clean and jerk and a snatch. The way that the clean and jerk and snatch was programmed was you could either go like I guess like a 95% lift, or you could go for like a 105 lift. Like it didn't really lend to the real big hitters to hitting massive numbers, because you had one shot to do it in 1 minute, really. And then for everyone else, it was just kind of like you just had to figure out what was like a number you could hit for that day. And you didn't know what you could do. Normally when you go out onto the floor, it then feels so much easier. But you can't rely on that to get you through a lot of the time. But a lot of the time, you'll have another 2 or another 3 lifts after that. It didn't have that luxury today, unfortunately. But I think with what I had today, I think I executed pretty well. Probably one slip up on the last obstacle in the obstacle course. But otherwise, I think it was a pretty clean run.
Okay, take yourself back to, you're just about to start the very first event of the day, which is also the very first event of Dubai Fitness Championships 2023. What is running through your mind in that kind of, well, the few hours leading up into the event?
Yeah, it was a very early start. So all the athletes had at breakfast. So it was a busy hotel in the morning, which is different to what we had for the last few days. So it was buzzing. The atmosphere was good. I felt good. There wasn't much like anxiety about it. I think the obstacle course is a fairly unknown. I know a couple of the guys who are competing this weekend have done that specific obstacle course, but I think for the majority of the guys, it was going to be just like, you got one crack at it and that's it, because you're not allowed to practice anything else. So
does the fact that it's unknown and that you've never done it before, does that make you more nervous, or does it make you less nervous?
Bit of both. Less nervous because no one else has got the chance to practice it, and it's not like I've missed out. And more nervous the fact that you could screw up, but at the same time, we luckily had all the women go in front of us first, so you could basically watch 30 women try and fail or try and succeed. And then we also had the GCC guys go, which is a team of 6 from the local the golf area. And some of those guys are actually on SWAT teams, so they were real efficient, and you could pick up things there. But it's funny, I started my Apple Watch just before I went out. I think I had 2 minutes before I was about to go. I looked at my heart rate, and it was at 65 beats per minute. And then when David Shrunky went, who was an athlete in front of me 2 minutes before me, I looked again, it was at 102. And then when Omar shouted out 10 seconds, I looked again, it was at 118. And
You hadn't moved the muscle.
I literally had maybe stepped forward about 4 steps. Yeah, so like, anxiety is high, and I think on that particular workout, the first obstacle was really the only obstacle that I had like a question mark in my head over. It was like, for those that don't know what it is, it was raised off the floor, can't touch the sand, set at 8 bars, I think, and you got to go over, under, like a snake going through it.
Moving laterally above the ground.
Well, I mean, however you want to, but yeah, the way to do it was to move laterally, and that was the only one that kind of looked and seemed unnatural to me. So just nailing that was important, and managed to do that, and then the rest was pretty comfortable.
Okay, no, I mean, obviously I've been with you for a lot of competitions.
Yeah.
So I've like roomed with you, so I generally know kind of how you deal with night before, night of, morning of.
Yeah.
But did you sleep well last night?
Yeah, I think I slept pretty well.
You're not like thinking about the events. You're not thinking about what's coming the next day. Are you able to just really switch off and get a good night's sleep?
This time I was, and I think not taking anything away from DFC, but I think there's not as much riding on the line here. It's not like it's the Open. It's not like it's a quarterfinals and semifinals that qualifies you for the next stage. So yeah, I think that's probably one reason why maybe it wasn't on my mind as much, and I could sleep a bit better. I think another thing is because it was an obstacle course and because it was a snatch and a clean and jerk, it's not like there's much unknown going on there. Like, you know who your big dogs are, you know who the guys are going to be at the bottom are, you know roughly what you're going to hit. Obstacle course is just like, you got one crack, and it's going to be anywhere between a 4 to 6 minute workout. So it's a bit of fun, I think. Well, for me, it's like seems like a fun event, but something new that I don't get to do, and I enjoy that.
I mean, so the max strength event, you had one attempt to hit a snatch, one attempt to hit a clean and jerk.
Yeah.
Strength has always been something that's been probably more challenging for you relative to your field of competitors. A lot of people would feel that, knowing that there's an event coming up where potentially their placing on the leaderboard is going to be further down, that induces a lot of feelings around, well, a whole bunch of different feelings, right? But generally speaking, people don't like it, right? And it's probably the least enjoyable event, and they kind of want to just get through it. They use the language like this damage control, just, I need to get through it type thing. What are some of your thoughts when something like a max lift comes up? What's going through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. Like, I'm definitely weaker, and my numbers are lesser than of my opponents on pretty much every competition I go to. I think for me, it's about framing it in a positive mindset. I think, coming into this event, I haven't really been snatching and clean and jerking much. I've had like some issues in my shoulders and my hips and my wrists, and just been feeling a bit banged up. But I still have confidence in what I'm doing. It's not like I've forgotten how to snatch and clean and jerk overnight. And I think for me, it's making sure that I feel good in what I'm doing. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what everyone else does. Of course, it matters on the leaderboard, but like, to me, it doesn't matter. So making sure that I'm executing the way that I want to execute it. So that means, like, technically my snatch is looking good, or the stuff that I've been working on is there for me to see. Like, none of my 29 other competitors need to see that, or the people in the crowd, but that's a win that I can take away from it. Things like, it's a high accuracy event, nailing my lift on my first go, just in case, there was a tie break in there. That's something as well that I wanted to make sure that I did, and I managed to do it on both as well. I also had, we had the opportunity to change the weights one time. You could say a weight, and then if it was too light or too heavy for you, you could change it one time. And I changed it both. I went heavier on the snatch, I actually went lighter on the clean and jerk. And I probably could have gone heavier on both lifts that I did today, but I was still happy with the way that I executed it. And I guess to answer your question, It's about setting goals for myself, or small achievable things, or small targets for me to hit, even if it's going to be a bad event or a damage control event. Like, I'm aware of that.
So what was your goal going into the lifting event?
So to execute the first rep, the first attempt within the minute. I didn't want to have to do another one, especially in a clean and jerk.
And was that what you were telling yourself, execute it? Or was there like a cue? Was there a...
Yeah, so, for me on the snatch, it was focusing on finishing my pull. And when I missed 110 twice in a warm up, but they weren't bad misses. They were like confidence building misses, I guess. So I felt good going into it, and it was just like telling myself the same thing, and it's something that I've been working on for the last, feels like 10 years, but mainly like last 6 months. And then the clean and jerk, mainly on the jerk, and I was confident enough in the clean. I was actually pretty confident in both the clean and jerk, but the jerk, I just wanted to technically nail it and make sure that I was staying vertical in my dip and my drive. And seeing the videos back, I feel like I executed that. So,
Okay, any point between when we last spoke, which was a couple of days before the competition,
yeah,
to today,
yeah.
has thoughts around failing, I might fail, or I hope I don't fail, or I think I'm going to fail, or placing, thoughts around placing, or thoughts around embarrassing yourself. Have any of those thoughts come into your mind at any point in time?
Yeah, I think they're always there at some point, but they come around a lot less often than the thoughts of succeeding. Yeah, I think it's natural to have nerves and to acknowledge that failure could take place, but it's also understand that failure is okay. I can go into all the other stuff about how failure makes you better, stronger, and learn from it. But yeah, I genuinely think that I probably have like 95% of my thoughts are about succeeding and what to do in order to make sure that I have control of the process of whatever I'm doing. And 5% might be like negative thoughts or just thoughts that are out of my control. So yeah, I guess they're kind of few and far between versus the positive and the things that I can control.
Okay, last one. What do you do between days and events like this? Right.
Yeah.
So what would you do now? The day finished around 4 p.m.
Yeah.
You're not until 3 p.m. tomorrow. What do you try to do in that time?
I try to switch off from the competition. So I haven't looked at leaderboard. I've checked like my social media pages, which obviously I saw some stuff on there, and I get back to people, and I try to go back to living a normal life as much as I can. But within that, I'll hit my recovery protocol. So make sure I'm eating my food, hydrating, get my leg sleeves on, went to the sauna and the ice, then dinner. Then it's just going to be honestly like a quiet night to try and have as much routine as I normally would do. Yeah, I think in the past I might have sat there and just watched videos of myself in the competition, or asked people for photos or whatever it might be. But I try not to get too caught up in that now. Try and take myself out of the competition, because today I competed for 5 minutes, 7.5 minutes, and like my body feels pretty tired. Like my legs are tired, my arms are even tired from the obstacle course and I guess the lifting. But if you do things correctly, like you need to recover and you need to bring the intensity the next day. And I know that I have I'm pretty good at just flicking the switch when I need to flick the switch, and I can bring intensity pretty quick. So I need to save those stores and reserves for when it needs to come out. In the meantime, it's about like socializing and hanging out and doing the stuff I enjoy doing.
Nice. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, end of day 2. Feelings and emotions that you're experiencing right now.
It was a hard day of competition. It was very, very testing workouts for myself in particular. I think a lot of movements that I am probably not so strong at compared to the moves that could have come up. So that was very testing, but I enjoyed the challenge of it at the same time. I haven't looked at a leaderboard. I don't often look at the leaderboard anymore, but I can't imagine I'd be doing too well now because of the last few workouts and just the placings that it left me in. But definitely, like, it's left me with a lot of thoughts when I do go back to the gym, and how I'm going to approach the rest of the season. Just, I guess, more of the same, which is just I need to still get stronger, because I guess if you look at the 3 tests today, the first one was double unders, legless rope climbs, and thrusters. Although the thrusters weren't the hard part of it, my shoulders probably had to work harder because my legs aren't as strong. I was still fairly happy with that workout though. The next one was a very front squat dominant workout, fairly high output on an assault bike and heavy front squats as well. So probably 2 things which I don't expose myself enough to in testing settings. Of course, do heavy front squats as strength-based work, but within a workout, I guess it's something that I've been exposed with now. And then the last one is like really high power output stuff. I'm just not a fast twitch guy, but it doesn't mean I can't get better at it. And yeah, I think emotionally, it's late tonight and I feel quite tired. I'm not normally up at this time. So it's been hard trying to compete in the evening, but something that I got to get used to anyway. But emotionally feeling, I guess I feel satisfied with my effort. I feel like I could have maybe gone a little bit more on the front squat one. But I think that front squat one also just completely killed me for the next event. And I know I'm not the only one feeling that way, but that's something I got to get better at as well. So I'm not really sure how I'm feeling emotionally, if I'm honest.
I mean, you had literally just finished your last event less than an hour ago. So maybe a bit of time will help you process more emotions, you think?
Yeah, maybe. I don't think I would say like sad, depressed, upset, ecstatic, happy. I don't think any of those emotions come into. I feel like I'm kind of like in the middle of the road right now. I don't feel like disappointed in my efforts. I don't feel ecstatic about outcomes. But yeah, I feel like with how I've prepared for this competition, that outcome is probably where I deserve to be.
Did the day pan out the way that you thought it would pan out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the field of athletes and you look at the tests. I mean, I'm doing well, but I'm not doing well relative to the field.
Yeah.
I'm doing well relative for me, which I'm happy about. But at the end of the day, I am on a leaderboard. And, that's what I get judged against, and that's where I am judged by at the end of the weekend, and that probably won't look very good. So, yeah.
What are your feelings about tomorrow? What are your thoughts, feelings, emotions around tomorrow?
Well, I don't know where I am on the leaderboard, but there's a cut after the first workout tomorrow, so I would like to make it through that first cut if I can. But I'm gonna have to probably pull my finger out my ass and pull the cat out of the bag and do everything I can on this chipper tomorrow. I got a bit of a niggle, and I hope that allows me to still execute the workout in a way that I would like to. I feel like this workout I'm fairly prepared for, versus the other ones I feel like I'm not very prepared for. And that's down to my own fault as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's first workout and giving it a good nudge and see what happens.
All right, we'll check in tomorrow.
Thank you.
Ant, what's up? It is 11 p.m. at night.
It is
past 11 p.m. at night, and we've just concluded the 2023 Dubai Fitness Championships. How are you feeling right now?
Body feels pretty beat up. Legs specifically, my upper body's fine. But yeah, I think mentally I feel quite drained, quite tired. I think it's been a challenging weekend. Hard workouts for me, but nothing that I shied away from. But that just made it all the more challenging mentally, but also physically for me. But I definitely had fun and enjoyed it. Enjoyed seeing new friends, old friends, and having the chance to compete amongst the best again.
Do you like finish a competition like this? In fact, did you finish this competition and have any epiphanies, confirmations of thoughts, or new thoughts around what you're doing and why you're doing it?
Need to find a way to get stronger faster. No, I mean just confirmation of things that I know already. I think the things that let me down in this sport are still apparent and need to be addressed. Maybe I need to address them more seriously than I guess I ever have done, especially with the way that the sport's evolving and the way that competitions within the sport are evolving as well. Weights are only getting heavier, workouts are only getting harder, and if I don't evolve with the times, then I guess my results become obsolete and insignificant, and I don't want that to happen yet. I need to adapt and overcome, hopefully.
What about thoughts around not so much the actual like training that needs to go in or what you need to improve on, but thoughts around, like why you do this?
No, I think it's although people might look at my final placing and be like, oh, that's a disappointment or it's a failure or something. I don't necessarily deem it as that. I enjoy competition. I think competition is a way of validating what I do on a daily basis, but I also enjoy it massively. I enjoy the challenge it represents, physically and emotionally and mentally. I like knowing that I'm also able to compete against the best in the world.
You're saying that the sport is evolving and the tests are getting harder. Is that based upon the tests that you saw this weekend, or is that something that you're seeing as a trend as a whole?
Yeah, I think I see it as a trend as a whole. You see, with the way that the sport of CrossFit is that pretty much anything goes. And the whole thing about being ready for anything, I think it's over the last couple of years it maybe has been getting pushed a little bit too much. But if that's the way the sport's going, then athletes got to adapt because there's no like controlling body that stops people putting in movements or combinations of movements that are brand new to people. But yeah, I think I also enjoy the fact that people are coming up with new movements. It keeps the sport fresh and it keeps it fun. It's not just running; it's running with something else, and I guess it just adds another thing to your locker that you got to be good at, and I like that.
Okay, in the theme of what we do at the Process Program, which is every day and every week we ask people to reflect. So one of my first question to you is, what was the one biggest thing that challenged you during this competition?
I think mentally between two workouts, which I just knew I just would not do well relative to my field. Actually, three workouts. I just didn't think I'd do very well relative to my field. It's hard to get yourself up and warm up and try and bring the intensity that the competition needs and that you need to give on the floor. And I haven't had that for a while. I've definitely gone through that in the past, but I haven't had that for a while. And it was just a good reminder of how small I am within this whole circle and this whole thing of competitive CrossFit. And even when sometimes you feel like a big fish in a small pond, actually there's a bigger sea out there, which you need to that's what keeps you getting better all the time. So I think the hardest thing for me this weekend was keeping a positive mindset in between maybe not so positive outcomes. Even though I felt like my processes were good, the outcomes necessarily weren't where I wanted them to be.
So just on that then, what was the outcome? Would you open to sharing what the outcome you intended that you wanted?
I mean, it would always be a first place finish. We always what I'm shooting for, and I hope that the work that I've put in is enough to get me to whatever that is. And I think upon reflection, I think I said in the last episode was, I haven't put in enough work to warrant that outcome right now. And sometimes that's like it's hard, even though you can understand that, it's still a hard thing to accept sometimes, because you always want the best result for yourself.
Got it. Okay. Next question. What was your biggest win from the competition?
I think my biggest win was probably finishing out strong. We're probably starting strong and also finishing out strong. Yeah, again, like I said, I had a really tough day too. And to then still come back on the final event and be able to put in a good showing, I think is important, not only for, myself mentally to just, pick myself up into a positive note, but yeah, I guess to also show that it's like validation for myself that I'm still doing the right things, and I'm still, the training that I'm doing on a daily basis it's not just going to waste, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. What's coming up next for you?
Have a bit of rest. I think I'll be taking my first proper holiday, which doesn't involve like any work or competing, I think, for almost 3 years now. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I think I've been I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but I've always been quite scared of taking holidays. I think with the nature of this sport, when and social media, where people are always doing so much, and you see highlight reels every day. I don't want to take a holiday in fear of missing out on the possibility of training and getting better and not being able to hit my regular routines. And then if I take a week or two out, then it's going to be harder for me to come back in and do it all again. So yeah, I think I'm actually, for the first time in a long time, actually really looking forward to a bit of a break and a bit of a holiday. My next thing, I've a few people this weekend been floating around the idea of a couple of competitions around here. I might come back for it, but otherwise, I guess it would be the CrossFit Open.
Nice. And what's the goal there?
To qualify for quarterfinals.
And then?
Semi-finals.
And then?
The games.
And then?
Have an off season.
Nice, man. Well, I want to say on behalf of myself, it's been really nice to come back to Dubai with you. I mean, last time we were here was the very kind of the early days of our coaching relationship, and have some interesting memories from that first trip. It's good to come back. It's been very, very cool. Just on behalf of myself, being here and just connecting with so much of the community. I think a lot of our community are part of the process, or who have been a part of the process, or Coastal at some point in time. Just loads of the cool thing about social media is you get to connect with so many people, on a daily basis, and then being able to actually meet a lot of those people over the last few days has been pretty epic. And I think I've built some good relationships and friendships I think will last a really long time just from this short few days. And of course, it's always an honor to be able to come here as your coach and, to be supporting you by your side, and very proud of all your efforts this weekend. And, as you say, the outcome is not why we do this. It's a process of everything from the training to the traveling to the warm-ups to the reflections and that's the stuff that I really love. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Thank you for helping out and being a part of it.